in the pandemic in 2021, January, I began the practice of getting up at 6 in the morning and praying. It has changed my life in more ways than I expected. First of all, I didn't think I could do it. But I was like, I have no excuses. I'm not going anywhere. I'm home. I can get up. I can pray. If I'm tired, I can go back to bed and still get up for work. I started the practice. Since then, I would say in 2021, 2022, I saw the biggest transformations in my life in 1 year. And I realize now that when I am not getting up for prayer in the morning, I am feeling the impact of that. So I wanted to share 2 tips to combat burnout. The first is build your faith. For me, that's prayer. So I believe that burnout, again, we talked about these 4 areas. Praying helps me to center myself. People who practice yoga, people who believe in chakra, people who are devout, fervent prayers, people that believe in fasting. All of these are areas to help center yourself. So if you have burnout now or not, find something to help you center yourself. Burnout has some elements of fatigue, listlessness, some of the things that I posted this morning and inviting you to come. But those things through faith can be addressed. If you also remember the scripture, I got so many scriptures in here. We talked about Isaiah 40:31, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. So when you rise up early in the morning, that's reliance on the Lord, right? So it's not just waiting for a paycheck, waiting to be invited on a date, waiting for a raise. It's not just those kinds of waiting. But if you wait beforehand, if you invest time and attention and study, it helps center you, right? They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. We talked about that. Eagles do not look weak when they're mounted. They shall run, talking about those who wait. Those who wait upon the Lord shall run and not be weary. Those who wait upon the Lord shall walk and not faint. So it means that you'd still be able to both run and walk and be settled. In the work of a teacher, I know that we often give examples of the classroom teacher, but the administrator ripping and running. Some nowadays, the administrator has their stuff on a cart. They're in the cafeteria. They're moving about the cafeteria. Then they have to go outside and do bus duty. Some of us used to have to go outside and do bus duty, hall duty. Like there's a lot of walking that happens and then running. But if we want to truly rely on the scriptures and our faith, we can put them in a scripture like this, Isaiah 40:31, to help us get centered. Through the practice, as was mentioned, someone wanting to get up early to pray. I'm a living witness of it. And when it was about the month of August, I think, I was not getting up. I was so tired. I was not getting up. And then because I wasn't getting up for my prayer, I was getting weary. And because I was getting weary, I was feeling like I needed more sleep. It was just a cycle. And I had not experienced that now in years. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I can't do this. I can't do it. Through that time in prayer, I pushed away my fears to come forth and do what I'm doing here because I was so afraid. I felt led to support teachers, but I felt so in my own way. But through my study time and my prayer time, and God saying, gone now. I done told you 7 years ago to do this, but I won't listen. I won't listen. Right? So do not get, no, back up. You get to choose the way that you will build your faith. You get to choose that. But make time to do it. That's what I'll say there. The second is around bearing the walk alone and did I put that here? Bearing the walk alone. I want to share another scripture. And this one we'll talk through a little bit. This is Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, New Living Translation. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. So many times we walk this life alone. And in the teacher realm, I wanna, even magnify the idea of what we try to create here, which is working in community. So let's not get tired of doing what's good. So that is the heart of the teacher. The heart of the teacher is one that is always thinking about what they have to accomplish for work and the needs of the students and their colleague and this and that and their nephew and their neighbor. It's typically the people in the serving community, right? But let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessings if we don't give up. Let's think about this as doing together. It doesn't say that you have to do good by yourself. If we want to support a new teacher who's expecting a child and we feel like you've heard through conversations over lunch and things like that that they might be challenged financially, come together as community with one another. Help the teacher. If we see that there's a need for the young girls to have mentorship and one teacher feels it, two teachers feels it, three teachers feel it, maybe you come together and do it in community. And maybe you do it where you rotate and every 3 weeks one of you isn't there, but two of you will stay with the girls, right? Maybe you say in community, one Friday a month, we are going to leave work on time and we are going to go treat ourselves to a movie, or we are going to go have dinner at a restaurant, or we are going to go into the city and watch a play, right? This scripture is not, when you read it, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. Do what is good for yourself. Do what is good for others in community, but you don't have to do it by yourself at just the right time. We will reap a harvest of blessings if we don't give up. If it is so important, I made note. I have the book. I don't remember the name of the book. Hold on, the book. The book is right here. The set boundaries. I think that's the name of the book. Set Boundaries, Find Peace is the name of the book by Nedra Glover Tawwab. I might be saying her last name wrong. Tawwab. She's a licensed clinical social worker, and she wrote an amazing New York Times bestseller a few years back The book focuses on practices for understanding your needs and setting healthy boundaries. That B word is critical. So, in believing, you still got to set some boundaries around how you're going to move forward. So, she said there is two parts to setting a boundary. There's verbal communication and action. So, we're going to now work on this project together. We're going to communicate before we even tell the administrator, before we even tell the school board the idea that we have in mind. We're going to work in community with each other, how we're going to bring this idea to fruition. So, you know how I talked about, oh, we see a need for the young people, we want to do a little group, okay? We want to create this group, but we don't want to do it at an expense to our own families and our own children. So why don't the three of us work together? And why don't, as we work together, we decide that every 2 weeks, so if it's three of us working on this project, we're going to make sure that two of us are at school with the students every week. But then there's a week that one of us is not there because they can go home. Like, this is what this scripture is talking about. So just know, set boundaries, even in the efforts that you're trying to do good, but communicate those boundaries and then put forth the action to those boundaries. I'll give you an example. So let's say, this is a real life example. Are you feeling like you understand the importance of setting the boundaries? And then as Nedra Glover Tawwab says in her book, there's two parts to setting boundaries. You have to get the book, y'all. I haven't finished the book, but boundaries are critical. And when we set boundaries is when there's breakthrough. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast, but decide for yourself, because you get to choose. Decide for yourself where, we talked earlier, how can you better care for yourself? Physical, mental, spiritual, or emotional? In one of those four areas, where do you need to set a boundary? Physical. I need to walk during lunch. I'm always at my desk. I'm always walking, I'm more sedentary than I want to be. I'm going to take 10 minutes of my lunch period and I'm going to walk. That, right? That's a boundary you can set. So that means don't ask me to come to your room to help you with something during those 10 minutes. I'm not going to do it. Y'all get what I'm saying? Next one, mental. We all have to continuously have a source to help regulate your mind. What that song say? Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here? No, the song can't be y'all gonna make me. It's got to be I'm gonna make sure you don't have me lose my mind, right? So, and we talked about tying that mental piece into spiritual. Think about the mental piece too, is what you allow in your space, what you how you allow others to engage with you, the conversations that you choose to engage in, or the conversations that you find yourself in. We need to establish the rules and conditions of how people are going to interface. And so that example I gave you, I didn't learn that in my first year. I was probably maybe in year 9. But I had just gotten to the point where I felt like I was so wanting to help all the students that I was not putting proper perspective in how that was impacting me. So then I started putting parameters. Since I have this willing heart, I'm going to do an early morning help and an afternoon help. 2 days in a month, I could do that. I'm at school early, I stay late. Anything outside of that, now I've already shown that I'm a team player. I have already shown that I'm a giver. I have already shown that I'm committed. Not that I have to, but because I knew I wanted to, I did it in ways that the parents who work late can come, drop their kids in the morning. the parents who worked early, right? They could be the after school. So that was for me. Anything else, I did not have to permit it. So I'm hoping that you will think about how you could better care for yourself. Remember that physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. I shared about establishing um, a pattern where I'm going to use my faith to help me to set off the day, right? Whatever your faith practice. And then I shared about don't do it alone. You don't have to do the burn by yourself, but in doing whatever, set some boundaries. And two things to remember: say it and do it. Okay? So, no, I'm not. And God put this one in my spirit. Some of you are grandparents, godparents, neighbors, and friends. People feel because of your teacher schedule that you're just available for all the kids. Now, there's nothing wrong with being on the other people's like emergency list, but maybe you don't want to watch somebody else's kids after school anymore. Maybe that doesn't work for you. Maybe you don't want to have to pick the grandbabies up. Okay? So just think about what you need and be okay with seeing how that's impacting your overall burnout. Notice this is the second time I said the word burnout. These are all contributing factors. So do not move forward without considering it all. I'm wishing you blessings and a wonderful weekend.